Hello, and welcome everybody to Unscripted Intelligence, a podcast where we talk about human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and how they impact everything from education to the workforce.
On this podcast, we interview innovators, change makers, and thought leaders who are shaking things up and making waves. These conversations are unfiltered and uncharted as we make space for what isn't being discussed. And these conversations are always
unavoidable.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Ament, the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and chief academic officer for ProSolve. The Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots community dedicated to ensuring that all humans have the uniquely human intelligences they need to succeed and thrive in our AI world. It's great to be here with everyone.
My name is Arvin Ross, the co-founder of ProSolve, a company that is dedicated to building the human skills that students need in an AI-driven world. I'm also your adaptability enthusiast, and I'm super stoked to be here and to be hosting this podcast. Thank you guys for joining these live conversations. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
What is up? How are you doing, Michelle?
Good. So good to see you. Sorry, we're running a couple of minutes behind. We were having some technical difficulties, but we are here now and we are live. So thanks everybody for joining us. It's great to see you, Arvin. I'm so excited for tonight's conversation.
Yes, me too. I'm excited. And let's just pretend like the technical difficulties were not Michelle's fault. We can just pretend like they were mine, like I was late or something like that. You know, we can just blame it all on me. That's fine.
Yeah, we will. So tonight's show, I'm really excited about because it is all about the superpowers that women have for an intelligence age. And, you know, I'm excited. We've got Amy Dujon as a guest tonight with us. But before we dive into it, I'm really curious, Arvin. Think about a woman in your life who has had a significant impact on you. Tell me about her and what superpowers does she have?
Oh man, I feel like my journey is just absolutely pockmarked. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but littered with a lot of really strong women that have kind of marked me and shaped me and pushed me and challenged me and grown me. I have 6 mentors that I've had for, the last, 8-9 years of my life. And I believe 3 of them are women. And one in particular, well, actually, I'm going to switch it up. My sister, I have a sister who started a company a couple years back. She was homeless. She was living in a car. Actually, I remember when I was in college at KSU, she was homeless, and I actually let her come stay at my dorm a couple times. It's just our family dynamic is just super crazy. But my sister, a couple years ago, started a company, and her company has blown up, has become super viral. She is like one of the most well-known fragrance providers in the fragrance industry. Her company did 10 million last year. And this is bootstrapped. So she has no investors. She has no, other like people like coming in to help, and so it's crazy. Her whole story is insane, but her resilience has marked me and has shaped me so much.
That's so great to hear that her superpower around resilience and has really helped you. It's Brown Sugar Babes, right?
Yes, I wasn't going to try to plug it, but yes, it's called Brown Sugar
I know
Babes.
you weren't bringing it up to plug it, but what I will say is you continue to promise me some oils from that, and I've not seen it yet. So
I got you, Michelle. I will get you smelling right. They're mostly natural fragrance oils. They're like, think of your favorite perfume producing the same fragrance but made out of oils instead. So it's much better for your skin. All the things. I'll get you some. I got you.
Kind of like your candles. All natural.
Yes. Yeah. Back in the day.
Well, I'm excited to kind of get into things. Do you want to tell everybody what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Yes. What superpowers do women bring in the intelligence age? I feel super honored that I get to be the one to kind of interview / facilitate this conversation, specifically with you and with Amy. I'm pretty stoked because not only are you two here, but there are going to be tons of women that are I'm hoping will be chiming in the live stream and chatting with us. So I'm pretty stoked about it. Do you want to take a second to introduce our guest?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Amy. So I got to really meet and know Amy here in the last couple of weeks. And I'm so excited because Amy is a builder of people, communities, and a new type of leadership. As the vice president of Community EDU, that organization oversees some of the most influential platforms in K-12 education. One that I'm really excited to be part of is the Women's Leadership Network. Did you catch that, Arvin? Leadership? Got it? So I'm really excited to be talking with Amy today because she has a strong background in school and district leadership. Her entire career has been about making transformational change. And that is not an easy thing to do as a leader. It's a place where you have to challenge outdated norms and really have clarity and care and connection in your leadership. So Amy, I know, champions human intelligence because we've talked about it being the new superpower for leaders in this intelligence age. So I'm excited to have Amy here. We're not going to just talk about leadership, but she's going to share with us kind of how she's created conditions for this to come alive. And we're just going to share some stories about women in leadership and what that means. And like you said, I'm excited for our audience to be able to share their thinking and ask questions and really get into this community conversation. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll bring somebody from the audience in.
We might.
I love that.
Welcome, Amy.
Yes.
Thank you. So I feel so hyped up right now. That was like the most amazing and generous introduction ever. Thank you for having me here.
Love it. Did we miss anything? I always have to ask. I know we give a mouthful of intro. Is there anything we missed?
No, listen, I don't want to change a thing about it because I feel amazing about that intro.
I love it. Thanks for hopping in here. Oh, Chelsea, we love you too, Chelsea. Please excuse my background noise, y'all. I got a lot going on where I am at. So let's just pretend like you're not hearing any of it. Let's everybody be super locked in, okay?
And throughout the show, they could try to guess where you are.
I love that.
Really fun. And we could see if anybody can guess.
Where's Arvin? I love this so much.
I should film every episode from a different location.
It's a new bit. It just started right here, and I love it.
Where's Arvin tonight?
I love it. So let's get into this. As we know, there are a lot of things, concepts, ideas, opinions, thoughts around women in leadership or women in the intelligence age. I feel like I want to be a sponge today. And so I want to start out by asking some questions, but please feel free to go off on whatever tangents you two want. My first question is, what are some of the unspoken rules that women feel that they have to follow in order to be good leaders? I can't answer this question, but I'm hoping you two could give me and the audience some context, and then any person that's in the live chat, feel free to hop in here as well. What are some of the unspoken rules that you feel like you have to follow in order to be a good leader?
Wow, that is a loaded question. There's so many different ways, right? And that women show up. I think a lot of some of those unspoken rules are that just naturally we're going to be the ones who step in to take care of the nurturing, right? The emotional side of leadership, and that, it's kind of an expectation, or to be the one that's remembering all the special dates and the birthdays and the recognition of things like that are those are the kind of like those unspoken things that kind of fall on women. But it's also the fact that women typically in especially in education, we are naturally kind of pushed into roles that are around instruction or curriculum, and not really looked at it for opportunities all the time necessarily when it comes to things around operations or technology and how we're integrating it. We're seeing a lot of really amazing women step up into some CIO positions. I could talk about 1,000 of them, but there's just spaces that were not, they did not originate or weren't born naturally for women to be a part of, right? Or they were shaped from a more masculine standpoint. And now women, because we are the biggest part of that of the workforce, are trying to find our way into that and kind of rewrite the script around what that kind of leadership looks like.
Yeah, I agree with everything there, Amy, especially some of the traditional leadership pathways in education, going from a classroom teacher to a building principal to a district office administrator and in curriculum and instruction, and then kind of getting stuck and not being able to move to the superintendent spot. Or we see very few female high school principals for whatever reason. Some of those just norms have been fixed in our education system. I think, Arvin, for me, and we've talked about this on several podcasts, and you and I have talked about it. I think a sort of a thing that I continue to carry with me is this feeling of needing to be certain and have a degree of knowing all the right answers. And I can think about so many times I stood in front of teachers and principals and with cabinet, and they looked to me to have the right answer in the area of learning and instruction and assessment. And so I always felt like it was like I never could say I don't know, because if I said I didn't know, they'd be looking for the next person that did know, and I might lose that coveted spot. And so that certainty that's been something I've been having that's really carried with me. And I don't know, Amy, if you experienced that at all.
A million times over, right? It's interesting. I even think back to like my days in the district when shifts were changing, realignment, restructuring, and new positions were opening up, and sitting with my network of girlfriends who were also in leadership positions, and them saying, we'd be like, you'd be perfect for this. You should put your name in for that. And them saying, oh, well, I don't meet all the criteria on the job description. Meanwhile, our male counterparts who are also friends were like, I'm still putting my name in for it. Like, why not? Like,
I was gonna ask Michelle specifically. Do you feel like guys or like males that are kind of in that similar position, that they get more of a pass to not have the answer, and they get more of a pass to kind of lead with that vulnerability of I don't know?
Absolutely. I think I can think about many men in my life who have told me this line: "You're just going to fake it till you make it." And that is like,
I know who you're talking. You don't have to throw him under the bus. I know who you're talking about. It's just,
but like that, I'm like, what? I'm gonna fake it till I make it? No, I gotta know how to make it. I'm not coming in and faking it, because if I fake it, they might see right through me and see that I am faking it. And that's a sure like invitation to exit when you don't know. And so I do think men come to it a little bit more, I don't know, the word ego comes to mind, to be like, yeah, I'm going to just fake it till I make it, where women want to be more certain. I think that comes with Amy's example of the job description. Oh yeah, I can do 2 of the 5 things, where a woman is like, no, I got to know how to do everything.
Yeah. I think there's men do this so well, and it's one of those things that I feel like women we need to take our cue from. We look at all the places where we have deficit, and men come with just like this sense of confidence. I think it always intrigues me of how like they're just like, it's fine, I'll figure it out. Like I can do that. I can do most of this, so I'll be fine. Where we really, we're thinking about it in terms of, okay, what is this going to mean, and how is it going to impact all the other parts of my life, and so we scrutinize a lot of those opportunities.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense to me. My next question kind of spins off of that is like, can you try to maybe flesh out for me or for the audience kind of where you think some of these unspoken rules or things or ideas or barriers come from? Like what is the origin? Because I don't know that we're even trying to solve the world's problems right now, or if we're just trying to discuss them. But where do you think the origin comes from? Where are these unspoken norms coming from? Who's perpetuating them? How do we like notice them when they're happening, like within ourselves or within other people? Can y'all give me any context to that?
I love that question. And I think a lot of it is just that we're working within systems that were built for men, a lot of them, right? They weren't built necessarily thinking about like a working mother in mind, or a woman who is trying to, do everything at home, but also, be a rock star or want to elevate in their career, right? That wasn't something that these systems that we still exist inside of were built for. And so as we're trying to redefine and rewrite and change those systems and elevate, we have such an amazing, powerful, like leadership pipeline that sits right inside of our districts.
Yeah.
Right in front of our eyes. And we're worried about this big leadership gap that's coming. There's the next generation of leaders are sitting in front of us. And so it's about us as those who sit in the position who can evaluate the systems as they exist, whether that's hiring practices or just the interview, the way that an interview process goes, or the way that we're building job descriptions, or just what we expect to be 24/7 on in some of these positions. Changing that is going to help to change the game for a lot of women to raise their hand and to step into that.
I think that's super smart. And how do we reimagine our systems and structures? I also think, Arvin, it's, it goes back. For me, it's a little bit bigger. It's about just mental models that we have. Like when we think about, we are exiting the knowledge age. And in the knowledge age, you needed to have all the right answers. You needed to lead with certainty. You needed to be able to really lead in a way that was about I guess being right. Like people looked, like the leadership structure was very hierarchical. Followers looked to the leader because knowledge was a commodity, and the more you knew, then you could be more effective as a leader. And I think even before the knowledge age, like even in the industrial age, kind of going back to, we talk about the systems, our classrooms have not evolved from the sage on the stage and that sort of knowledge era economy. I don't think our leadership practices have either. And as we look ahead to the intelligence age, the attributes that you need as a leader are going to be very different, because now it isn't about having to lead with that knowledge. That knowledge is at everyone's fingertips. Now it's more about supporting leaders, being a supportive leader to others. What do you think, Amy?
I agree. And what we're seeing right now, and we talk about like even just like the teacher turnover, leadership turnover, it's the burnout, the emotional side of leadership, that like that empathy, the ability to tap into it, to be really listening, right? That is it's such a critical leadership skill that every leader needs to bring to the table if we're going to shift the way that we approach the work. You're so right on, Michelle, because we entered into the age where if I'm the leader, I got to know the answer. I got to be right. And honestly, I think what today's leadership calls for is for people to say, you know what, I don't know, but we're going to figure this out together.
Right.
Like I need a few of you just to be guinea pigs with me. Like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Right. That like leading through that uncertainty and modeling how to be resilient, how to be adaptable and being willing to take risks and kind of create those conditions for people to feel safe in taking risk, in trying something that may or may not fail, because you no longer, it kind of goes back to, you no longer have to prove that you have the right answers or that you're the right person for the job. The proof comes with how you show up every day. And I think about that from that adaptability lens, Arvin, and I'd be really curious what your thoughts are on some of those skills that maybe you talked about, having multiple women mentors and seeing some of those adaptability skills in women, which I believe is the next set of leadership skills that we need. And I just have this sense that the attributes that women have had to kind of put on the back burner or say, that's not what a true leader does, are going to be the skills that are going to be out in front more and more. And so I'm curious what you're thinking, Arvin.
Yeah, I was actually thinking while you were talking that it feels like we have we're in a moment in time where the previous idea of leadership is kind of flipped on its head, right? And so instead of top down, this is what you do, I know everything, so you must do what I tell you to do. And clearly I'm in this position because I'm the smartest and I have all of the knowledge to be there. Now it's in my opinion flipped to where I value people who are facing difficult things, who are facing ambiguity, and who do not have a sense of certainty in front of them, but somehow manage to rise to the occasion, somehow manage to defeat the challenge in front of them and keep things moving. And I feel like even as we're centering like this idea of women and what they bring, can we somehow articulate or deduce what inner strength and inner abilities and competencies that could have been cultivated through decades of having to be forced down and oppressed? Like what are some of the unique things that you have had to learn, by being oppressed, for lack of a better term, and how that uniquely situates you to lead in the season that we're in? I'm a firm believer that, like, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I don't trust you if you ain't been through something. I don't trust if you don't been through something. And so for me, I've just seen people who have been through the muck, who have been told that they can't do something and then get up and do it anyways. Those are the types of people that I trust and that I look to, right, for guidance and for wisdom and for direction. And so I'm just, as you're talking, my thought is just what a perfect space and time for women to be empowered, specifically in the intelligence age, and specifically with the rise of AI and in education specifically. What a perfect storm.
Amen. Yes. Like, I think one of the things that I think about is like just that pressure of moving from, this mindset of perfectionism to progress, right? Shifting the mindset of, I don't have to be perfect. It's about my daily progress at getting better. It's that transparency in leadership, right? Naming it when you're like, listen, I'm burned out, or I can't take any more on my plate, and feeling comfortable and being able to say, listen, I'm on the brink right now, and giving other people permission to tell you that as a leader, like, listen, take this off my plate. I need you to take something away. If I will do this, but what can I let go of? And providing that safe space. That's a number one thing when we think about transformation, right? We think about like driving a disruptive innovation or something new, like what we're facing right now.
Yeah.
We have to as leaders build that safety net for them, that it's okay to try and fail, to Michelle's point, right? It doesn't have to go right, but also like calling out your own insecurities. Like the biggest transformation happened for me when I was a principal, and I realized that like I gave really sucky feedback, and I only realized that by going to the teachers and saying, hey, is this helpful? Right. And they were like, no, not at all. Actually, it's not. When I had the nerve to ask that question and to expose where I knew I was feeling were my weak spots, like that was the most freeing opportunity for me. And so that's one of the things I think we could lean into, is really just not being afraid to say, listen, that's not my expertise. I don't know. I'm going to learn this. We're going to learn it together. But letting go of this idea that we have to be everything to everyone, that we have to have, like it's got to be perfect. Little change, progress is all you've got to strive for, right? Getting better every day.
Yeah, I love that. I saw that Chelsea made a comment that says progress over perfection. Yes, yes. Yes. I love that. Sorry, Michelle, were you about to say something?
Well, no, I would agree with everything Amy says. Something that really stuck with me is that being everything to everyone. And I think one of the things that, women have had to do is not only succeed and prove themselves as leaders, but then they're also, for the most part, moms and wives, and having to kind of carry all of that, what it's like to raise young children while you're also working 12, 14-hour jobs, to be able to kind of keep pace with what the other leaders in the organization are doing. So I think that really spoke to me, Amy, and even what you said about not being afraid to say, I can't do this anymore. I've had enough. I'm at my breaking point, and that isn't necessarily resilience as much as it is just survival, and being able to name that for people and ask for help. Like, I think that's another thing, is being willing to say, I need help with this.
Survival, fight or flight is not a way of living, right? Like, that's not sustainable. And I see leaders across this country who are literally trying to take so much on. They are saying to themselves, like, oh, I've got to, I want to take this burden off my teachers, or I want to take this off of my my principals. And so I'm just going to do it for them. And in that, they are overloading themselves and not giving themselves permission to do that. I love this comment right here about productive
somebody
struggle.
read it. Yeah.
Productive struggle, getting comfortable with productive struggle is key. That is like one of my favorite terms, because that is it, right? Like, it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's like, there's muddy times in leadership. There are times where you get in the muck and you're sitting there as a woman. Like, especially when we're leading transformation, leading change, and you're like, I can either, it might be easier just to go back and keep doing things the way we were doing it, or I got to grab the rein. I got to push through the mud, and I got to drag those who will come with me, and figure it out behind us. And so, it's hard. There are nights of tears, and I'm not saying that our male counterparts don't have that too, but that is just emotionally the way that we show up a lot of the time, right? If I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm whatever, I'm gonna tear up. That's the way, the way it goes, and being okay with that. But I love this about productive struggle, because that is the nature of the work that we do every day.
Well, and Megan talks a little bit about sitting in the struggle, like being uncomfortable. And I think this is a really strong point. Biologically, as nurturers, this does not always come naturally. We want to rescue people, right? And so it's like not only allowing ourselves the productive struggle, but also allowing the people we serve productive struggle. Because I can think of many, many people that I led, that I was working overtime to help them be successful and doing their work and really making sure that they weren't uncomfortable. And that wasn't serving them, and it wasn't serving me. But I thought that's what a leader did, because everything needed to be flowing, and we shouldn't have any stumbling blocks, and we've got to hit our targets and look successful.
But it's the magic in the resistance, right? And in that grit, that is like where the real powerful things happen. So I do love that, just sitting in it and letting it, because our job as leaders is to build the next generation of leaders, right? To coach and to tap them and bring them up. And so I love that so much, Megan. We can be best friends.
Yeah. Megan's like one of our super fans. She comes every week too.
Yeah, she's on fire.
Unscripted. Yeah,
she's on fire. I love all that. When I think about leadership, I just always go back to kind of the Greek and Hebrew kind of version of that, of drawing out, not just putting in, and when I think about like there's a lot of connotations around this word, of exegesis. And, it's this idea of going, like leaving your village, going to a watering hole or a well or something, getting the water, bringing it back with you to wherever you were, and then providing like nourishment to the people around you, and it's this idea of you're not just providing, you're first pulling out, you're first calling up, right? You're first drawing out of something in order to provide. And so, when as we're having this conversation, my thought is just, man, can either of you share with me kind of an example of a productive struggle that you've had, and kind of the effect that it had on you? And then I kind of want to respond with, if I, as a man, as a dude, was in that situation, what would have been happening in my mind? So a little bit of a curveball, but either one of you kick it off. And Megan and Chelsea, if you guys are still here, feel free to answer that question. Share with me a story of productive struggle and kind of the impact it had on you, and like what the result was.
Wow, the path of leadership has been wrought with productive struggle. On my end, I feel like it's just been a journey of, so as a leader, I always like to be in a place where I always feel a little bit uncomfortable, like where there's whatever I'm working on is just slightly, there's something more I need to learn. There's something else I need to master in order to get there. And that's where I find that like healthy balance between it. But a couple of things I can think of in my career path, one of them specifically, like even just getting to the principalship when I was, sitting I used to call it drowning in this pool of eligible candidates. And I mean, going to interview after interview, being told, guess what? You were the number one candidate. Your name's going up to the superintendent. Like this is it. People on your interview committee telling you like, wow, you knocked it out of the park. And then finding out you're not getting the job. And to a point where I was like, I'll never forget the job that I actually got as a principal. I got the interview and I remember walking out the door telling my husband, like, yeah, I'm going to go do this, but I'm not going to get it. I've been told, oh, they're holding you, you're being saved for some other kind of school, or you're going to get, your time will come. Just wait. You got to be patient. It's not your time yet. And deep down, me feeling like I know it is my time. Like I know I'm ready to step into this next piece. And so that was hard. It was almost breaking to a point where I was like, well, maybe this isn't this isn't meant for me. Like maybe I've got a warped sense of my abilities or where I need to go next. But I could tell another example, but I want Michelle to jump in here because I know she's probably experienced it too. Like in the work that she's
I want to respond to yours first. As I'm thinking about it in my context, I feel, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of guys, myself included, being in that situation would cause, I don't want to say more inadequacy, complexes, but in a world where it feels like as a man, I should be able to get whatever job, right? And all of my other guy friends are getting these jobs and, or these opportunities. If me sitting in a space where I'm not, I can just imagine the turmoil of I'm a man and I should, but I'm not. You know what I mean? So I don't really know how to reconcile that yet, but that's just my first thoughts.
So for you, Arvin, it would be I should, where Amy really, what I heard her say is I'm not, it's not my time, or I don't have what
I'm not enough. Right.
I'm not enough.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So first of all, I got butterflies in my stomach, just like you asking this question brought up like an emotional response. Did you feel the same thing, Amy?
I was like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Like I'm nervous right now. I'm not nervous for like the podcast in general, but that question did something physical to me when I had to think about what am I going to say? And for me, like, here's an example. A recent one is that someone reached out to me and said, we'd love for you to be a keynote speaker at a conference that we have coming up. And my first thought was like, me? Who me? Like, don't you want to ask this other person who is a guy? Like, I was like, there's someone far better suited for this opportunity than me. So that was like my first response. And I can think about like even podcasts, my first podcast that I went on, I was like, it was uncomfortable. And that's how I think about, like, I guess speaking in general makes me uncomfortable. And you probably would never guess that, because here I am hosting a podcast each week. I come on and I'm never uncomfortable in the moment. It's like the big stage or this place where I'm like expected to be perfect. And I think some of it, you said it really well, Amy, is that sense of not being enough, like that comparison. Like I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, and she talks about the gremlins.
That is my girl. That is my girl.
And those gremlins are getting on my shoulder, in my head, like, why'd you say that? Or you're not, all the things that gremlins bring to you. So I don't know, because I'm nervous, that was a long-winded answer that just kind of rambled.
No, you're good. That resonates. That resonates with me as well. Amy, you about to say something?
I think one of the other things that that is really important to talk about too is, like, oftentimes, can I just tell on girls for a little bit? Like, you've got girls, but sometimes girls, like, we do this to each other, right? Like, we look, we compare, we judge, we do things rather than, and sometimes it's just subconscious, but it's kind of the way that our brains work. We're always looking and saying, okay, I remember I walk into rooms even now in the role that I'm in, and I'm like, wow, I don't have the same credentials that person does, right? And, oh, how did that person get elevated? Why am I sitting here? What is it that they see in me? But we do that to each other almost more than men do it to us. That kind of, like, I hate to use the word misogyny, but like, we get that mean girl status going. And that's hard too. Like, I'm not sure what triggered me to, like, think about that, but it is about, like, that sitting in it, not feeling enough, and that comparison that constantly happens all the time when we're in spaces.
Okay.
Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Wait. What was your question? Because I was talking at the same time.
No, I'm saying, like, do men do you sit there in a room and be like, wow, like, I don't think they do.
So okay. I don't know for sure, but I can say in a lot of settings, I particularly, especially in education and in kind of the entrepreneurship realm, it is very easy to fall into comparison, and it's very hard to find, just that unmitigated support of, like, oh, like, we're not just sitting here in a locker room, like, yeah, bro, you go get that deal. Yeah, you go get that, client or whatever. Like, that just doesn't happen. But I have always heard just about, like, the catty drama sometimes. And I've heard, I have two sisters, and they're both very, very, very entrepreneurship minded individuals. And so I have heard tons of stories. So my answer to your question is, it's probably not to the same degree. And I've definitely heard horror stories about women being the number one antagonist in like crab in the barrel, trying to break down other women, which
right. I mean, we call that the queen, like, another term is like the queen bee syndrome,
Right.
Have you heard of that, Arvin?
I have, yes.
Yeah. What did that make you think of?
Whereas, like, we see, like, men, like, get in, like, they thump their chest, like, who's bigger, who's both.
Yeah.
Women, we call it, like, the queen bee, right? Who's gonna that is the syndrome. You're right, Michelle.
Yeah, we call it. Sorry, go ahead.
I know you want to say it. You call it
okay,
what?
Okay. So the reason why I laughed is because we call it the HBIC.
Yeah, I see. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard it called, but I get the queen bee concept too.
But I think that comes, what I will say is there's only so many seats at the table.
Right.
And so there tends to be this, like, almost stepping on top of each other to get one of those seats at the table. And I have experienced that from women that were supposed to be my team, my rally crew. And instead it was like, almost pushing each other out of the way in order to maintain our seat at that person's seat at the table, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. So my question would be, what can women do to, like, help support or, like, sponsor each other in some of these spaces? Like, I get the idea of good intentions, and I want to like, but good intentions is not going to do a ton. So what are some tangible things that women can do to help support other women?
Such a great question. Arvin. Like one of the things too is like, and I challenge myself on this all the time when I'm sitting in a room and I'm in the room and it's that there's a lot of decision making. I'm always asking myself, who else's voice needs to be here? Who's missing? Who is it from my team? You know, if who needs to be here? Who do I need to be elevating? Whose name can I speak in a room even when they're not here? Right. Really leaning into and amplifying people's expertise, because in calling their names out and doing that, it's also about like creating that like a network, right? So that you have places where you can go, where you can get hyped up, where you have that psychological safety around a group of women who everybody's just cheering for you to win. And that's hard to find. That's something I'm incredibly passionate about creating. Like, it's big for me.
Yeah, I want to point out that Marcy said, let's add more cheers to the table. That is a bar.
Marcy, yes.
Michelle, did you want to go for that?
Well, Amy, how are you creating those spaces for women to kind of come together and be champions for each other and really add more chairs to the table instead of what we've always known?
Well, I was always the girl who felt like she was either never enough or too much, because I have that kind of a personality. And so I was a lot to handle. And so, walking into rooms always felt that way. And it's just this passion for me. It started a couple of years ago. There's so many amazing women's groups out there, and I've been very blessed to be able to be invited to talk at them, or to even just be in those spaces together. But I knew that with the organization that I was leading and with our membership and the women that I got to come into contact every day, I was like, we could create this really great place where all of that amazing work that's happening in pockets and silos could be shared. And so we started our leadership network for women as literally just a meeting before the meeting, like, hey, women, let's get here early. Let's have some breakfast and lunch together. Let's talk about, our unique struggles and the way that we're showing up in the work. And then that led into a bigger, summit that we did last year and into an even bigger one this year. So, we're creating a space for all of those women's organizations, or for women in districts, like to bring that group of women that they want to nurture, that they want to tap on the shoulder, that they want to start to develop, bring them to our conference that we're holding in DC, or, into any of our spaces, and give them the seat at the table, right? To have enough seats for all of us to tell our stories, to connect, to network across, not just within our district, but across the country. And so it is a big passion of mine right now, is making sure that we do have all the seats at the table and enough seats for the women that they're willing to raise their hand and say, I'm ready to take the next step.
Yeah, and I think that sponsorship comes from when you drag the chair to the table and put them right there next to you. And then it becomes the other thing, I think, Arvin, that for me at least is surrounding myself with women who want to step into leadership roles, and then supporting them and holding them up and empowering them. And then listening for the times when that I'm not good enough, or this feeling of being afraid to fail, or this comparison to other women, and just trying to interrupt that, and having lived it and have some wisdom with emerging leaders and up and coming leaders to be able to hear those kind of pitfalls, and then just name it and start to interrupt it. And I think that's one of the ways that at least I feel like I can help emerging leaders into those roles, and just help them feel like they can have that seat at the table, that they can lead differently than the people maybe that came before them.
Yes.
Okay, I want to ask this really good question, and then I think we have to move into unavoidable truth time. So I want you guys to try to answer this super quick. What do you say to that woman who does not have a sponsor, who no one is pulling up a chair to the table, who is listening to those voices saying you can't do this, or you're not adequate, don't even apply for the job because you're not going to get it? What is your one sentence or one paragraph? Yeah, one paragraph, not sentence. What is your one paragraph to women that are currently unsponsored and don't have someone to pull that chair up to the table?
First of all, DM me on LinkedIn. I got you, girl. I will, if it's not me, I will connect you with a host of women who will say, I would love to do that. So don't sit in the isolation would be the first thing that I would say. Don't sit in that isolation. Continue to pursue your passions and do it. Go at it scared. Start to reach out to other women, because there are people, I cannot tell you, I get goosebumps. Like right now, I have goosebumps thinking about the amazing women who have said, I'll do it. You pair me with somebody, connect me with somebody. And so ask to make that connection. Always ask yourself, who should I be having a coffee with? Who should I be having, who should I be connecting with on LinkedIn? If you see somebody and you're like, oh, I think I might do it. Don't be afraid to have the ask. Go to somebody in your district that's nearby, maybe that you don't think would support you, and say, who do we know here that can help me, right? You've got to get connected. You've got to get into networks that will help to feed you and to grow you. So, come to DC, DM me. I got you. That's what I would say.
I love that. I love that.
It's hard to top that, Arvin. I think doing it anyway. I would welcome anyone to reach out to me and say, like, can we meet for coffee? Can we do a virtual conversation? Absolutely. I think there are more women who are trying to support and want to sponsor than not. And so, I think about just not being afraid to ask questions and bring scenarios like, this is what I'm facing. This is a challenge I'm having. How would you handle it? What do you think about this? And just being in it with people.
I love those. I, as the resident male on the call, want to add one thing to this answer to this question. And this is not just for a woman. I find that doing for someone else what you need done for you is one of the quickest ways to get that thing done. I find that if you are in a place where you need a chair pulled up to you to tables that people don't want you at, what tables are you currently at, and what chairs can you currently pull up for someone else? So I would just encourage everyone. I've seen it. The women that have poured into my life, they do it so first of all, I have an insane team of mentors. You guys have no idea the heavyweights that I have access to. I feel like I'm bragging. I am kind of bragging. I feel like my mentors are literally superhuman, and off doing amazing, insane things, causing real impact in the world. And every step of the way, every couple of months, they have a new me. They have a new person that they're pulling up, that they're pouring into, and they're connecting people, and they're using their platform for other people. And I would attribute a lot of the blessing and a lot of the progress and a lot of the reach that they have to their mindset on giving back along the way. So that is one thing I would add to that. I want to hop into unavoidable truth time. This is a time in the podcast where all three of us, or well, actually all of us here, live people as well, share one unavoidable truth or one truth that you think is unavoidable that you have learned or captured during this conversation. And we just have to realize that we're going to face it. So who wants to go first? I'll go with you, Michelle. I'm going to tag you, Michelle.
Okay. Here's what's coming up for me is that it's so important that we do hard things, that we find those places for productive struggle, for the uncomfortable ideas, and that we lean into that. And no, it's not going to be perfect. Stop comparing yourself to other people that do hard things and just show up and be your best self and do those hard things, because on the other side is the person that you really want to be. I know that sounded kind of like quotey there, but I think it's true. I think it's true. Just show up and do hard things. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation tonight.
Yeah. I was going to say, and this might sound hopefully not cliche too, like the work is going to cost you something, but silence or status quo, just is going to cost more. So for me, the truth here is that comfort and change can rarely coexist, right? They can't. And I think that's what we've talked about. So if we want to be better for students, for our teachers, for the people that we serve, then we've got to first demand better for ourselves. And so doing that means, stop asking permission and just start, go at it scared, do it, and step into the spaces to help others.
I love that.
Stop asking permission.
Ooh.
I love that. What about you, Arvin?
I love that. I would say for me, Amy, when you said, thinking about what other voices need to be at the table, I haven't really thought about it like that. Like I always think about opportunities that I can make for other people or create for other people, but I've never thought of like a table that I am specifically at, to think of another voice to come to bring to it. So for me, and then that connecting with what Marcy said about pulling up more chairs to the table, I think my unavoidable truth is we have to start pulling up chairs to the tables we're at for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's my unavoidable truth. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. This has been really, really, really dope. Amy, where can our listeners find more out about you? And where can they follow your journey?
So I love that. So obviously I'm on LinkedIn, Amy Dujon. On LinkedIn, I would love to connect with you there. But also, if you're a woman out there being like, yes, I need more of this in my life, I've got 3 days of that coming up. So you can also find out more at theleadhershipnetwork.com. We'd love to have you join us in DC in a few weeks. I just love to meet you and hug your neck and say, hey, welcome to the tribe. We want to have you in as a part of our network. But other than that, like, definitely connect with me. You can email me anyway, like message me, DM me. I'm on LinkedIn, all of the socials. Not as active as I'd like to be, but I am there.
And I'm super excited to meet Amy at the Leadership Conference. So if you want to come, you get to meet both of us and hug both of us.
Do it. I love that. You guys can follow us or find any of these episodes on LinkedIn, on Spotify, and on the Human Intelligence YouTube. We thank you guys so much for watching. We thank our producer, Jenna. YouAreTheBomb.com. Thank you for making all this happen. I have no idea how any of this happens. I'm literally just here. Michelle, can you tell us what's going on the next episode?
Yes, next week we have a brand new series starting. It's all about rebuilding and redesigning. And doesn't that sound exciting? We are going to be talking with Tara and Stacy, both our classroom teachers in the trenches, doing the work every day with kids. We're going to be answering these questions as a community. What about the student and teacher experience needs to be rebuilt?
All
and
of
then
it.
What ideas do all of it? And then you just gave away the whole show, Arvin. So then the focus is, what ideas do we have for a complete overhaul or redesign? So next couple of podcasts, we're going to be focusing on rebuilding and redesigning, kicking off next week with Tara and Stacy. So super excited to hear about that. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us and contributing to the conversation. Our goal with these podcasts is to really come together as a community, not just the people in this video call, the space, but the people online sharing ideas, asking questions. So thanks to those of you who joined us tonight. It was great to have you on the show. So thanks. And we will see you all next week.
Thanks so much. See y'all.
Thank you.